and I work for the DeepHealth organization. I'm a radiologist by background. I've been in industry for over 15 years. I guess my so-called claim to fame was I was one of four speakers on the scientific program back in 2016 when AI first appeared at RSNA. It was the only, it was one of four presentations that had the words AI or deep learning in the title. And now look at what we have all around us, and we're really moving AI into a new dimension. So I'm really excited to talk about our collaboration, but particularly what we're doing with CARPL to help evaluate AI at scale and ensure safe adoption of the best quality AI for provider organizations. And I'll let my CARPL colleague, my fellow radiologist colleague, to introduce himself.
Hi everyone, my name is Vasan. So I'm a radiologist by training. I serve as the Chief Medical Officer for CARPL. We are very proud and excited to be working with Chris and his team on this validation project, which is, I think when we started talking about it, it sounded very ambitious. Even many of the AI partners that we talked about it are taking up a very, very ambitious project. It's never done by anyone before. Yeah, midway through it. Hopefully, in a couple of weeks from now, we'll be able to pose it. I'll let Chris talk about more during his presentation. And the first time I met Chris, again, we made Kuti 18, I think. And, he was working for a different company, different avatar. He keeps changing his avatar. Now he's landed in I think he has just found his product market fit now. He's in the right place, and we are proud to be working with him. And I am also, want to point it out, Chris is the only breast radiologist who is qualified to read mammograms in both US and UK. I think he's the only person in the entire world who's qualified to do that. Impressive.
Well, thank you, Dr. Vasan. I'm going to talk to you then about this title. Let's jump in today. We'll leave some time for some questions at the end. We want to keep this very informal, and I know that many of the people in the audience are participants in what I'm going to be talking about. So really, if you have some additional questions and things, please chime in. But really, this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to go over the RadNet challenge really that prompted us to come up with this project and this idea that we're going to tell you about. We'll give you an overview of what the solution looks like of CARPL and DeepHealth coming together. And we're going to focus specifically on chest X-ray AI evaluation, which is really the focus of our effort. What you're going to see and what I hope you take away is not just what we're doing with chest X-ray, it's how a big provider like RadNet, with the help of the technology that CARPL brings to the table and DeepHealth, and actually run large-scale evaluations of any AI model and deploy it and safely monitor that going forward. This is really the vision that we have. So today's focus is chest X-ray, but I hope that you walk away understanding that this is something that we're scaling both for RadNet, but also for our external customers. So just by way of background, if you haven't heard the RadNet name, RadNet is the provider arm and the holding company of DeepHealth, which is we're a radiology AI informatics company. We are based in various different locations across the U.S. with over 1,000 radiologists in various different centers concentrated West Coast, East Coast, and somewhat in between. DeepHealth as a company is the technology arm that sits under the RadNet umbrella. We are a global company with not only RadNet on the provider side, but we also have affiliations with Heart Lung Health in the UK. It is running the targeted lung health check program with our own proprietary AI, and go by the DeepHealth booth and learn more about that, because what we're doing in chest X-ray couples very nicely with what we're seeing and what we're able to deliver in lung cancer screening world. We have assembled ourselves as a company around a lot of AI applications, which I'm not going to be talking about today, but you probably read in the press, including a very recent one, Hiron Medical, that I was chief medical officer for actually in the day we recently appointed them to enhance our breast imaging capability. So let's focus on the project and the opportunity here. RadNet came to us actually with a number of questions. We had been successfully deploying breast mammography AI across the RadNet ecosystem. We're very excited about what we've demonstrated in that area, and we've also been scaling our prostate MR AI application, both for routine tests and also starting up a screening program within RadNet. So the radiologists were then started to say, okay, we're seeing more AI coming within our environment, and we'd like to scale in these other dimensions where we spend a lot of our time, but not necessarily want to spend most of our time. And I don't mean to offend any radiologists who love the chest x-ray. There are some who still like it. Our radiologist said, we don't want to spend much time on chest x-rays anymore and other x-ray modalities that we see. So how do we start thinking about finding a solution that meets our requirements? This just gives you an overview of what x-ray imaging looks like across RadNet. And I should caveat too, because this is an important qualifier for our project. We are an outpatient imaging only provider. And that means our patients are referred to predominantly from their physician, primary care physicians, or other tertiary care, secondary or tertiary care physicians to come and have imaging done at our centers. So what this means is we tend to not have acutely unrubbed people coming in. We don't have a need for lines and tubes, for example, on a chest x-ray. People are not walking in with those. We do need to execute a high quality chest x-ray, and we also need to issue a high quality report, largely to exclude more than to confirm in most cases. And I'll talk to you what that means for in our environment. But these were all the questions that the radiologist brought to us around all of x-ray. And so we needed to really think carefully about what a program might look like. There are multiple vendors in the space, particularly in the chest x-ray space, and many of you are here. Regulatory clearance still is a challenge, and it's not because the vendors are not out there pounding the pavement, having deep pre-sale conversations with the FDA and successfully getting some of the indications through, but to get the comprehensive solution that providers need. The regulators still have not cleared a solution that meets our requirements, which are different from an emergency department, for example. So thinking about our needs and what our radiologists need was also part of the decision-making process. And we haven't seen, like we've seen in the breast mammography space, we haven't seen large-scale multi-vendor evaluations. There are groups like Frederick Strahn's group out of the Karolinska that have done some very large-scale multi-vendor analyses on breast imaging, but we've not seen anything quite like that with just X-ray space where multiple vendors are brought together and a representative data set being used to test and evaluate X-ray at particular chance. So this is where we went. We decided to design a program, a full X-ray program that would be AI enabled, and that there would be a series of work streams that we needed to pull together to be able to deliver that. So starting with chest X-ray, which we're talking about today, being our first work stream, which we kicked off this year, and work stream 2, which will be a similar evaluation for bone X-ray, starting with bone fracture detection, which is an area that we do see as an outpatient provider. So this is kind of a summary of what we were trying to put together, and we needed to find a partner to be able to do this, because as you look at the banner on the bottom, what was most important for us is to find a way to evaluate and select a vendor and not to have to do that heavy lift ourselves. Our radiologists are very busy. We are not an academic medical center that has dozens and dozens of resources. Now, of course, DeepHealth brings resources, but a partner like CARPL brings an extra set of skills that we didn't have within our organization to be able to deliver all technical skills as well as data science and evaluation skills. So we were looking for somebody to help us carry that piece, and then thinking through the next steps beyond that about orchestration and setting up pirates. So once we made some of those selections based on the evaluation, how do we deploy internally, and how do we monitor? And these were all things that were ruminating in our minds and led us to have some deeper conversations, which has resulted in the partnership that we had now with Popol. I'm going to hand very quickly to Dr. Vasant to talk about some of these capabilities, just so you get an overview of it, and then I'm going to jump into the study after that. Oh,
And I see a lot of friends here from these test X-ray companies. So how I want to congratulate and thank all of them for participating in this. It shows the level of confidence they have in their own solutions. The idea of the validation is that, running a study on 100,000 studies is never heard of, never done before. The intense amount of human effort that is needed into performing the study is kind of pushed back for many players to do that. And when we designed a very unique, design around, we know that all these test X-ray solutions have certain level of maturity, And we need to figure out if a particular use case, which one is doing one of the most needed clinical value that practice is looking for. That's when we took a very unique concordant discordance approach. Simply put, if all of the AI solutions agree on a particular finding present or not present, that's not reviewed. If there is any discordance between these AI solutions, they're reviewed by a expert radiologist, and then all of these results are put together, and then overall evaluation is performed. That's the broad design. This is our platform workflow. This is how the workflow is created. AI solutions are selected. I'm just used 3 examples here. It's now 8 AI vendors are participating here. We run all the inferencings, compare the inferencings for concordant with discordance. The discordant cases are selected and then sent to a reviewer. And then, the reviewer gets to see the AI outputs, do its specific questionnaire around their feedback around what they think about each of these different AI outputs. There's also a report that's provided to them, the text report, and there is an LLM that runs on. It extracts the ground truth from the report. That's also presented to them. So all the reviewers are looking at the AI outputs, the original reports, the LLM output, and making a judgment on what is that particular study and which of these AI solutions are closest to the truth. That way it is designed. You also have very intuitive dashboards which will help in doing a specific finding level comparison between different vendors, changing the thresholds because many of the solutions come with a fixed operating threshold, which may not be ideal for the setting that you are testing them for. So we also had on our platform the ability to test these solutions at different thresholds to identify a better operating threshold to reach the needed clinical value. And this is and the flow that I described to different pieces. Additionally, on the platform, you also have a continuous monitoring capability. Once a couple of these solutions or one of these solutions chosen for clinical deployment, the idea is to go to a real deployment, run it in the clinical workflow, see how they perform when it's run in a clinical workflow to do a continuous monitoring. So that's the planned part after we close this retrospective evaluation. I'll hand it over back to this.
So thank you, Dr. Basan. That gives you an overview of the capabilities and kind of the trajectory that we're trying to take. And also what was announced as part of our partnership with CARPL is we've actually taken their platform and integrated it into our DeepHealth OS system. That this is our entire end-to-end solution of all imaging informatics, operational informatics on this side, clinical on the other. And that includes the diagnostic and clinical AI. As a company, we have our own PACS and RIS, and we have a lot of our own operation capabilities, and we built and integrated all of that onto our platform. If you'd like to learn more about it, please check out the DeepHealth booth. But you'll find as you go through those demos, you'll learn about where the CARPL platform is actually sitting in this ecosystem to not only help our RadNet radiologists, but also to take this to external customers. As you saw, we have over 350 customers around the world who are using our RIS and PACS, who are going to be adopting the OS and are using our clinical aid. So what is it that we did here? And what are the objectives that we were trying to achieve in this evaluation? So we did narrow down to chest x-ray, as I told you, and there were a lot of reasons for that. Number one, we have high volume of chest x-rays. We do about 500,000 across the RadNet ecosystem each year. We find, at least through our own analyses, and we're learning through this approach how we do it better, that roughly less than 10% of our cases that go through our imaging centers are considered remarkable or have a clinical finding on it that would be classified either as critical or needs some kind of a follow-up on the back end of it. And that in and of itself gives you a pretest probability. Most patients coming to chest x-rays or chest x-rays at RadNet centers, we're not representative everywhere. We are large and we thought, okay, this is really interesting. So we need a solution that will find those things that help our radiologists accelerate their ability to interpret those and focus on those indications that we don't want to miss in our environment. And so we have a number of opportunities, and we looked at some of those priority outcomes, in particularly operational, clinical, and growth outcomes as we continue to grow as an organization. How do we use this as a prototype to try and develop some understanding, and then roll that out, take it to other areas. So this is what we actually designed as the Chest X-ray project under the X-ray programmer. So we started out by agreeing the RadNet radiologist requirements, not too dissimilar to what any of you do pre-evaluation, needed to understand and define what those outcomes should be. We then ran this performance evaluation piece that is still underway. We're going to be closing that in the next few weeks. I'm sure you're all delighted to hear those you're participating. And beyond that, then it's these next phases that we've showed the capabilities that CARPL has to help us with. So we will be selecting a vendor, but probably multiple vendors is our anticipation to be able to deal with a variety of different things that we need to go into the pilot phase, to be integrated and deployed, and then ultimately beyond the evaluation of the pilot, making sure that it meets the requirements of our radiologists, that we will then move towards a full deployment or a solution. And we're in that bone fracture of detection as our second piece that we're already gathering the data for to be able to run a similar way. So this is what the study design looked like, and the sampling was really important for us too. We wanted it to be representative of as realistic of our population or chest X-ray population as possible. So we made it a retrospective standalone. We had over 100,000 chest X-rays retrospectively collected from March 31st of 2023. We took all of our 3 sites here. This is California, New England, and Mid-Atlantic. And that's the breakdown of the volume of X-rays, chest X-rays that go to each of those centers. So we weighted a test set based on the volume of those regions. And obviously, this is only in an adult population. We don't really do pediatric imaging at RadNet anyway. We use the RAD reports as ground truth, as primary ground truth, and then secondary, we're using human readers or human radiologists who are looking at discordant cases, as Dr. Vesmith was saying. We're using some of the traditional metrics. We are doing a lot of experimentation around different various statistical tests that we'll be talking about with each of the vendors as we dispose some of the results. But this is really the approach we took. And this is the way that the study was designed. We have kind of 2 arms of the study. So we have the 100,000 test set. We have actually 9 vendors participating. Each of the vendors have different various capabilities. Most of the vendors do not have FDA for their applications, and that was not a barrier and exclusion criteria. They wanted to see what the rest of the world was really getting access to. So we opened it up to a total of 9 vendors. And the first part of the study was looking at just the simple task of unremarkable and remarkable bucket, similar to the Danish study that was published recently in radiology. And then we took some learnings around where the discord cases would occur. And this is where the AI is agreeing or disagreeing, and those go off to discord and radiate. What we did when we did that with our radiologists is we refined what those must-have clinical findings should be, and keeping a very tight short list for those, and what those findings in those studies that would require follow-up should be. So we limited to those clinical indications and then followed the same approach. This is what we've seen in the study population. So a slight leaning towards females with a mean age of 59. We have ethnicity data on the majority of our patients, which is also really important for these kinds of evaluations. And interestingly, also have modalities. So we have lots of different medical devices that are doing X-rays, but over 70% of them come from these 3 manufacturers, with the others kind of having sort of the less than 5% threshold across the other device manufacturers. And then based on the LLM that used some NLP functionality that CARPL brought to the table, we distilled down those core chemical indications. Now, again, the pie chart's very busy, and you have to take into account that some of these patients have dual diagnoses. So the numbers and the percentages really represent what we saw in those reports. Remarkable sort of fits largely with what we see remarkable general. And then you see these other clinical indications that we're looking at isolating and testing. And so really where we're at the moment is not to disclose those results because we're waiting for the discord case. And of course, we have agreements with each of the participating vendors of how we will share these results in private. So nothing is being disclosed here today. What we really wanted to do is kind of sum up with 2 main messages. One, importantly, is to say thank you to the vendors for taking us out to participate in something that we think as far as we know, is the largest chest X-ray evaluation study on a multi-vendor population or multi-vendor chest X-ray applications on this. And so that in and of itself is really something that we were excited to participate and work with you. We really appreciate the vendors for participating, and we anticipate there's a lot of benefits that they will all get from participation and ways that we are hoping, and CARPL is hoping to help them too with interpreting and using these results to make some of their internal decisions. But where I want to finish up on here is just talking about the integration. So we managed to integrate the majority of the participants. I'm going to show you some of those right now, just to get a sense of how this looks applied in our system. And if you go over to the DeepHealth boot, you will see integrations with the DeepHealth with the CARPL platform in our OS that is actually taking and generating images and putting outputs. And these are some of the participants that we want to say thank you to. This is a company called Imidex based out of Denver that is focused on lung nodule detection, one of two in the US that have FDA clearance for that. And you can see their bounding boxes up at the top here. Again, this is what a RadNet radiologist would see using our solution. Uh, this is the Cure.ai solution, again focused on a critical finding of nodules and pleural effusion. Here's a participant called Rayscape. And we've got multiple different outputs here from this particular vendor, looking at a variety of different clinical indications, including cardiomegaly, and may actually generate a CTR ratio in addition to just confirming total MIG-A or not. So this is a company called Vino, very friendly bunch, and also have a significant list of clinical indications that highlight things such as pleural effusion and consolidation and nodular endocrinology. Company called AZ Med. I saw their sign over there. They give some outputs that also indicate level of confidence the BL is making. Again, showing some consolidation here being the main clinical diagnosis. Company called Oxybet. You can go visit their booth right across from us here. This is showing a variety of different indications, including a tube and line here that would definitely be on an inpatient population. And another great French company, France, is producing some wonderful AI companies called Gleamer. This also is a nodule detection example. Gleamer has other indications for use as well. And Annalise, who's not fully integrated at this stage, but certainly gave us permission to mention that they're participating. We're excited about Annalise and many of you for some of the work they've been doing, particularly in the UK NHS, and we want to give a nod to them as a participant. I'm just going to wrap up here by highlighting some of the lessons learned and some of the next steps. And on the lessons learned side, I think the partnering piece has been really helpful and valuable for us as a company, both working with RadNet as a partner, but also choosing a skilled and innovative partner like CARPL to help us really consolidate this, to take off some of the workload for organizing it, and also finding vendors willing to participate what we consider partners in this exercise. The contrast piece, all of you have gone through that, I am sure. It's always a lot more convoluted and complicated than it needs to be. But at the same time, we've found some really great mechanisms and learned a lot through the process, which will enable us to do this at scale and much more accelerated for the future projects. Data is always an issue. Be prepared for surprises. We found some burned-in PHI that we had to eventually exclude from our code. We're still trying to figure it out, but we know the root cause now. It's getting it off retrospectively. Balance, speed versus scientific rigor. We've seen some great studies in the AI space. They'll take multiple years to actually produce. One of the things that we like to do at RadNet, and one of the reasons I wanted to join the company, is we do things at speed. You're doing this evaluation in roughly between 8 to 12 weeks from start to finish. This is unprecedented, and it's really finding a partner who can do it and recognizing that no process is perfect, but you can get a good sense of what is working and what is not, and what you can fill in these gaps. You need to codify this process, which we're also going to be doing with CARPL, so that we can not only scale this with RadNet so that we can work together to bring it to other organizations and providers who are interested in this type of approach. And then finally, well, what is it that we're doing now? So we're completing the discordant case review. We'll be selecting some vendors to pilot with us, starting that pilot in January. We're already assembling the bone strip and fracture data set for the next wake stream. And we are already exploring too implementation of monitoring capabilities. You haven't heard what ARPA-H is doing in the Precise AI project. It's something everybody who's interested in AI should be looking at as a government-funded initiative to really look at how we bring monitoring systems into AI. FDA is very interested in following that as well. And there also were introduction of the evaluation of LLMs, recognizing the learned language models are entering into all of these domains. Big regulatory hurdles, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be looking at them and coming up with designs, study designs to be able to evaluate them. So we are inviting organizations that have chest X-ray LLMs to participate in a similar exercise in the future.